Hey there, in this video we'll cover a beginner apparel workflow. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is actually import a mannequin. Let's go to prefabs and then select import models. In your company folder, you should see a few options here to choose from. I'll select this bottom left-hand mannequin, and to bring him in the space, you can reach out and grab him, but to place him precisely, point, click, and then you'll have a menu on the right-hand side that allows you to click the blue check mark to officially import the mannequin. Okay, now let's click the settings icon and make sure we're under sketching aid. Turn on world axes, vertical lock, and the mirror tool so that everything we sketch is replicated on the other side. First thing you can do is change the color of your stylus by using the color menu button. And then you can adjust the size of your stylus by going left and right on the joystick on the right hand controller. This will give you nice refined lines to sketch with. Okay, now let's click the Layers tab, and you'll see that you have one layer. This means everything that you've done so far is populated on that first layer. So we can click the plus sign, create a new layer, and then in order to select that layer, click the empty space next to the name. And then the active layer will be represented with the magnifying glass logo. Alright, so we can name those two layers and then close the menu. So now what I'll start doing is making a loose sketch of the apparel I want to design. You'll notice I'm moving around the model quite frequently, using navigation, and using as many sketch lines as I need. This is a loose sketch, so don't worry about messy lines or using too many lines. We're going to come in and clean this up later. And even without cleaning it up, it's just used as reference for surfacing. If you make a line you don't want and you want to go back a step, don't forget that you can press the red button on the right-hand controller. This is the equivalent to Ctrl-Z in Gravity Sketch. Okay, now that we have our sketch, we can come here to the Layers panel, lower the visibility, create a new layer, and name this Clean Sketch. Now what we'll do is switch to the Stroke tool and use this to make a clean sketch of the design that we loosely sketched previously. Again, left and right on the joystick to adjust the size of the line. And then we'll go back to the Tools menu, click Stroke tool again, and select Point Mode. This will allow us to point and click out an edit point with the right pointer finger trigger. To close off the line, press the pointer finger trigger on the left-hand controller. So now what we're going to do is actually go over some of the lines we previously made and clean things up a bit. One of the benefits of making a clean line sketch is the ability to surface between the curves. So if we click the Surface tool twice, drop the initial tension down all the way, and switch the geometry type to SubD, we can loosely sketch with some SubD surfaces. If we switch the drawing input mode to Bridge Curves, now what we can do is hold in the pointer finger trigger on the left-hand controller, and then highlight two lines to sketch a surface between. To highlight the lines, you want to move both controllers over to two curves that you want to surface between. Once both highlight, you can press the pointer finger trigger and sketch out a surface between them. Now because we changed the geometry type to SubD, this is just like any other SubD geometry. We can adjust the edit points, the edges, and grab some of the surfaces. The second way of surfacing is by clicking the Tools menu, selecting Primitive Shapes, and switching from the cube to the plane. Now when we click and drop in this plane, place it into edit mode, we can convert it to a SubD object and start making surfaces from that object. If you want to avoid that extra step, come back to the menu and click the Subdivision Object button. And now when you drop in a shape, automatically it will be a SubD surface. So now what I'll do is shrink this panel down, place it somewhere over top of the sketch, place it into edit mode, and start building out the surfaces for this garment. If you find the edit panel is in your way, you can press the purple tools menu to hide it. Now what we can do is grab one of the edges and press the pointer finger trigger when we want to duplicate out an edge. One thing you want to watch out for is grabbing faces instead of edges and duplicating. This will make a mess and basically have surfaces on top of each other. To connect the edit points together, all you have to do is drag one edit point or hollow dot over to another one and they should automatically connect. If this isn't happening, it probably means that you have overlapping surfaces. If you do, just grab the surfaces, delete them, and try it again. Gravity Sketch is all about iteration. Okay, right now we have a control mesh. If we want to see this smooth, we can look at our edit menu and take the subdivision slider and move it all the way to the right. This will show us what our surfaces look like smooth. Ultimately, this is the shape that we're trying to achieve. So view it in smooth mode as much as possible. If you want to turn this off and go back to your control mesh, use the on-off button instead of taking the slider and moving it all the way to the left. The slider simply adjusts the level of smoothness, but it doesn't turn smoothing on and off. You'll have to use the on and off button for that. Otherwise, it's best to leave the smoothing slider left all the way to the right. So on this back flange here, if we wanted to duplicate an entire row, we can select the top right selection, auto select loops. This will allow you to grab an entire row of edges or surfaces. Now I can grab them together, hold them, press the pointer finger trigger to duplicate, and drag down this back part of the garment. Alright, so I'll begin to close off the shape here and then turn on smoothing and move around some of the edit points so that the surface is not intersecting with the mannequin. If we want to add more detail on the sleeve here or any other part of the garment, we can point and click on any edge with the stylus on our right hand controller to drop in a row of edge loops. In general, you want to start off simple and add more detail later in the process. So you'll see that here with the crease on the sleeve. I'll just drop in an extra row, shift some of these points back, and it adds an extra level of detail on the garment. I wouldn't do this until I have the general shapes worked out because it adds complexity to the geometry. So in general, start off simple and then add your detail. Okay, the last thing we'll cover is merging shapes together. Up until this point, we've had one surface, but if you have two surfaces that are made of SubD and want to merge them together, what we'll do is grab one of the surfaces, place it into edit mode, and then look at our right-hand controller. When you have a SubD piece of geometry in edit mode, the color menu button on the right hand will change to a hammer and brush icon. Click and hold this button and you'll have access to your SubD tools. You have the smoothing tool, the edge cut tool, the loop cut tool, the crease tool, and then the merge tool. Hover over the merge tool and then let go of the hammer and brush icon button. This will select the merge tool. Now we can take the merge tool and then point and click on any other surface that we want to merge with the surface we have in edit mode. When you merge to another shape that's connected across the mirror plane, keep in mind the mirror plane will separate. Just drag these over to the mirror plane again and connect them. Now these surfaces are merged, even though they're not connected. To connect them, let's duplicate out some points, drag them over to the edit points on the other surface, and watch them merge together. Okay, the last thing we'll do is save this as a prefab so that you can bring this into your next training session and get some feedback. First, unlock all the layers so they're grabbable, and then go to the prefab menu. And make sure that we have import models selected. Then expand the grab sphere by going up on the joystick, grab everything, and hold it over the blue box in the menu. Once the blue box turns green, you can let go of the grab trigger, name the file, save it, and I'll see you in the next training session.